Good day, everybody. I hope that you're well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 1 English lesson on sentences and fragments. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once you've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of English language arts, grade 1. And then once we have selected the subject of English language arts, grade 1, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of sentences and fragments. Right, so our chapter is sentences and fragments. Our subject is English language arts, grade 1. And the lessons that we are going to be focusing on under the chapter of sentences and fragments is to find the complete sentences and to complete the sentence. All right. Here we go. All right, I can't seem to correct that word now. All right, so we are doing sentences and fragments, right? Um, all right. So a sentence, right? It starts with a capital letter, and a sentence it usually ends with a period, right? And it usually ends with a period, right? Which is that sign. Or a sentence can also end with any other end mark, and the other end mark can either be an exclamation mark or exclamation point or a question mark, right? That can also be ways in which a sentence can end, right? But a sentence, right, it has a naming part and it has an action part, right? So once in a sentence has a naming part, right? and it has an action part. Then it tells a complete thought. So a sentence has a naming part and a sentence has an action part. And once it has both naming part as well as an action part, and then we say it is a complete sentence. And if we look at a few examples, right, of let's say different kinds of sentences, right, specifically ones that ends, for example, with a period, and then we can say it is I play outside or let's go to the first one. This is my brother jumps in the pool. So my brother jumps in the pool. And if we try to underline, remember we said a sentence needs to have a naming part and a sentence needs to have an action part, right? So the naming part within the sentence, right, would be my brother. So this is the naming part, right? This is the person or thing that does the action. So another word for naming part is a noun. So my brother, right? And if we look at the action part, right, then it means jumps, or we can say jumps in the pool. That is the action that the naming part is doing. And this we call the action part, which is another word for verb. And then we have another sentence, right? And another sentence that shows a complete sentence, right? Let me use a different color. It says, I play outside every morning, right? So the word I is our naming part. I'm going to put it in. And then we have play or play outside every morning, and that is our action part, which is our verb, right? And once again, a sentence starts with a capital letter, and a sentence either ends with a period or with any other end mark, right? And any other end mark can either be an exclamation part, right, or an exclamation mark, or it can be a question mark, right? An exclamation mark, if the sentence ends with that, then it means that we are either expressing ourselves, showing surprise, right? Or if it ends with a question mark, then it means that we are asking a question. So we need to remember within every um sentence that you need to write, a sentence starts with a capital letter and it ends with a period or another end mark. And a completed sentence has a naming part and a completed sentence has an action part. So both the naming part as well as an action part needs to be within a sentence in order to show that it has a complete thought. All right. So now we're going to do our tutorial lesson, and we're also going to do our test on sentences and fragments. All right. So we're going to aplusstudents.ca, and that is where we are going to do our lesson under the title sentences and fragments. And the first lesson is going to be find the complete sentences. And once again, we said a sentence as a naming part and a sentence as an action part, right? Within a sentence, which tells a complete thought, right? And we made an example of my brother jumps in the pool or I play outside. We need to, for example, underline or we need to identify the naming parts. Remember, the naming part in a sentence is either the person or thing that does the action, that is doing the action, right? It's the person or the thing that is doing the action. And then an action part, right? An action part is the action, right? Is the action or the verb that the person or thing has done or is doing. All right, so now let's go and do a few activities, right? Where we need to find the complete sentences. So they're not giving us a complete sentence, right? But if we look at these sentences, it says the complete sentence is Zach fell, and it has a naming part Zach, and it has an action part fell, right? So yeah, they're giving us an example, right? Not an example, but they're giving us like a yeah, like an example sentence where they just say Zach fell, right? So it can be simple, even like just saying Zach fell, or we can say Zach fell at the beach, right? Or at the park. Then Zach is the name of a person, right? So this is the noun, right? Or the naming part. It shows the naming part. And then fell is the action that took place. And this is the action part or the verb. All right. So Zach fell is a complete sentence because remember I said a complete sentence need to have a naming part and it needs to have an action part. So a completed sentence, right, needs to have a naming part, which is either a noun, it's a person or thing that they're talking about, and then the action part is the action or something that the naming part did. All right. Then also here we have two sentences. We have one that says it fits and the other one that says one wish, right? So if we look at that two sentences, right? One wish is not a completed sentence, right? So it has a naming part but doesn't have an action part. Whereas it fits as a naming part, which is it, and fits is our action part. Yes, you see, so usually an easy sentence would be like Zach fell. So all you do is you identify Zach as the naming part, fell as the action part, which is something that Zach did. And the same with it fits, right? It is just the naming part, fits is the action part. Yes, like it fits. You see, but now if we look at this next sentence, right? The next sentence is she tripped on a rock. That's the next sentence. She tripped on a rock, right? And if we try to identify the naming part within that sentence, right? What do you think we can say the naming part is of the sentence? It says she tripped on a rock. The naming part. So here it says she tripped on a rock. What do you think is our naming part? The person or thing. Our naming part. All right. And if we were to identify our naming part, right? Then our naming part would be she, refers to the person or thing that is doing the action. And the action that she did was tripped on a rock. So tripped first, but on a rock, right? And that is the action part. All right, so now we're going to do our test where we are going to find the complete sentences. Right? So we're going on to the test. And we're not going to find the complete sentences within, like, when it comes to these four sentences. So we're going to select the completed sentence. Remember, a completed sentence as a naming part and it has an action part. It says, Mom is ready. Or do we say, asked for help, ran away, discovered the cure? What is the completed sentence within those ones that you see over there? So we need to find the complete sentence. Is it option one, Mom is ready? Option two, asked for help. Yeah, we need to ask ourselves, who asked for help? Ran away. Who ran away and discovered the cure? Who discovered the cure? All right. So if we were to select the complete sentence in yes, Mom is ready. Mom being a naming part, is ready being our action part. Right? So well done. Well done. We need to find the complete sentence. It says wins the prize. Yes, well done. Mom is ready is correct. Now we have the second one, and the second one says wins the prize. They ride the bus or slammed the door, baked a cake. Remember, a complete sentence need to have a naming part and it needs to have an action part. So which one do you think has both naming part and action part within the sentence? So now let's identify the complete sentence within the next one. It says wins the prize, they ride the bus, slam the door, baked a cake. All right. And if we were to select the complete sentence, right, then yes, option two would be our correct sentence, right? Because option two is they, which are naming point, our naming part, and then ride the bus is our sentence part. So, and then we said that the correct complete sentence is they ride the bus because they is our naming part, ride the bus is our action part. All right, so now let's go to the next one. It says find the complete sentence. We have one wish, it fits because it was raining, for better or worse. All right, so one wish, it fits because it was raining or for better or worse. All right, and if we were to find the complete sentence, then yes, it fits is our correct sentence, right? Because it is our naming part and fits is our action part. So well done. It fits is correct. All right, we need to find the correct sentence, the completed sentence, and it fits is correct, right? So we need to find the completed sentence. It says, the new teacher, she lost the book, slammed the door, or ran to the store. What is our complete sentence with up like when it comes to these four options? All right. So if we were to select the correct option, right, to show a completed sentence, then yes, we will choose option two because option two says she lost the book. So the new teacher, she lost the book, slammed the door, ran to the store, and we chose the correct one, which is she lost the book, meaning she is our naming part, lost the book is our action part. Right? So the correct one is she lost the book because she as is our naming part and the rest is our action part. So we need to find, remember we said when we find a complete sentence, right? Then we have a naming part and we underline or we identify the action part within that sentence. All right, so we need to find the complete sentence. Remember, we have a naming part within that sentence and an action part within that sentence. We say Zach fell a long trip, is taking the bus, or washed the dishes. Yes, she lost the book because she's not being responsible. Well, that's very good. That is so true. All right, and if we select the correct one, we can say Zach fell. So fell is our complete sentence. All right. We need to find the complete sentence. It says, my new best friend, that he loved her, Shane walked to the store, or is it got lost? What is the completed sentence within these sentences? Yes, Zach fell because he wasn't careful, or Zach fell because of negligence, or Zach fell maybe because he did not see something in front of him. My new best friend is the first option. Option two is that he loved her. Or Shane walked to the store. So it's my new. It's no, it's not number two. It's not number two. It says my new best friend. That he loved her. Shane walked to the store or got lost. All right. So if we were to select the complete sentence, we will say Shane walked to the shop, meaning Shane is our naming part, right? And then walked to the shop is our action part. All right, so number three is our complete sentence. All right, so one more, and then we're going on to the next lesson. It says, find the complete sentence. Walked to school, slammed the door. All right, so if we were to select the complete sentence, right, it's walked to school, slammed the door, they came home, or dad paints. What do you think is the complete sentence within the sentence? It has a naming part and it has an action part. All right, so if we were to look at any of these options, right, we need to find a complete sentence. It says walked to school, slammed the door, they came home, or dad paints. All right, so yes, we can either say they came home or we can say dad paints. They came home or dad paints. All right, so if we were to select the correct one, right, the completed sentence, then we can choose dad paints, right? Because dad is our naming part. All right, so if we were to select the complete sentence, then we would say dad paints. Because remember, dad is our naming part, right? It's our naming part. It tells us who is doing something. And then paints is something that dad did. So action part is something that dad did. All right. So if we were to select the complete sentence, right, then we would choose dad paints, right? And I made an example, dad being the naming part, paints being the action part. All right. So now let's go to the next lesson, which is to complete the sentence. Yes, well done. Dad paints is our correct answer. All right. We see that every sentence, in order to show that there's a complete sentence, it needs to have a complete thought, right? In order to know when a sentence has a complete thought is when a sentence has both a subject, which is a naming part, as well as an action part, right? And we made an example of dad paints. So dad being our naming part, paints being the action part. All right. We said a complete sentence needs to have a naming part as well as an action part. All right, let's go to our test. So we're now going to complete the sentence by choosing the correct sentence from the box to complete the sentence. All right, so if we were to select the correct one, we would say, do we say, my friend gives me the ball or before school gives me the ball? Which one is the correct naming part that will go with that rest of the sentence? Do we say, my friend gives me the ball? Or do we say, before school gives me the ball? And in order to show our complete sentence, we will choose our naming part, which is my friend. So my friend gives me the ball, right? So yes. The next one, in order to show a complete sentence, do we say the girls won a prize or do we say maybe won a prize? All right, so if we were to select the naming part, and then we would say it is the girls, right? Is the naming part. Won the prize is the action part. Okay, well done. We need to select an action part within that sentence to complete the sentence. The boys is given to us, which is our naming part that is given. So by boys, do we say the boys stop and look for the bugs, or do we just say the boys look for the bugs? All right. So if we were to choose the correct one, we would say the boys look for bugs, right? All right, and that is correct. All right, so this is now the end of our lesson on sentences and fragments. We say that in order to show a complete sentence, right, it needs to have a naming part as well as an action part, right? And the naming part, it either tells us who or what is going to do, for example, something. And then our action part, all right, so if we were to remember, we said that this is now the end of our lesson on sentences and fragments, right? A sentence need to have a naming part, which tells us who's doing the action, and an action part, the action that the person or thing is doing. Thank you very much, grade ones, for joining our class. Thank you very much for being interactive. I really do appreciate that. This is the end of our lesson on sentences and fragments. Good night. Goodbye.